Welcome to the Dayton Unit NAACP Update TV show. Today, we have three distinguished guests who are running for mayor of the city of Dayton. My name is Derek L. Forward, president of the Dayton Unit NAACP. I will serve as your moderator today. And Tom Roberts, who serves as our third vice president, as well as our political action chairman, not only for locally, but also for the entire state of Ohio, will serve as our co-moderator. Today we have our three guests. We have current mayor, Gary Lightsell, who is a candidate for office of mayor. We have Commissioner Nan Whaley, who is seeking the office of mayor. And then we also have former judge, A.J. Wagner, who is seeking the office of mayor. How are you all doing today?
Great.
Good, good, all right. Well, first of all, I want to take this opportunity to thank each one of you for taking time out of your busy schedules, because we understand that the primary is May the 7th, 1 week from today. And we understand that your time is extremely valuable during this crunch time. So what we want to do here today is we want to make certain that everybody understands that the NAACP is a nonpartisan organization. We are very political, but we're nonpartisan. However, another thing that is going on with the NAACP is that we want to make certain that everyone knows that we look at issues. Where does the candidate's issues lie? And how do their issues sync with the NAACP's mission, vision, goals, and objectives? For the sake of this forum today, as we discuss the various issues throughout the community, each person who I just announced will be addressed as candidate. So it'll be candidate Lightsell, candidate Whaley, candidate Wagner. So with that, first I would like for Political Action Chairman Roberts to address the primary election, because that's very critical coming up here within the next 7 days.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. And just to reiterate that most voters need to be reminded that May the 7th, Tuesday, May the 7th is Election Day. Dayton, Ohio has a primary, and as the President pointed out, we have these three candidates running for the mayor of Dayton. We have other candidates running for City Commission. Early voting has begun, so you can vote at the Board of Election from 8 to 4 o'clock each day. And on Saturday, May the 4th, you can vote at the Board of Election from 8 to 12 noon. So either you can do early voting or go out and vote on May the 7th. There's no such thing as an off-year election. Every year is an important election, and we are asking you to make sure you cast your vote on May the 7th.
So with that said, which is extremely important to everybody who is watching this TV show today, make certain that you exercise your right to vote at every single election. So I second that, Tom.
Thank you.
That we need to make certain that every single election that everybody is exercising their right to vote, because many people have died for the privilege to exercise their right to vote. And before we get started with our questions, I just want to kind of lay out some ground rules. And that is, as we go through the question and answer period, we will ask a question, and the question will either ask for all three to answer, or if there's something specific to a current position holder, then we'll ask that particular question of the current position holder. We also have had an opportunity to ask our membership. So a lot of these questions that's going to be asked today has come from the membership of the Dayton unit NAACP. And we are the third largest unit in the state of Ohio. And we are very proud and very honored to have 3 mayoral candidates who are all 3 life members of the NAACP. You know what? We salute you guys and gals on that.
Thank you for that.
All right. So with that, we'll have Chairman Roberts to lead us out with our first question.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Dayton has a rich history of citizen involvement, and for many years we have had a priority board system. I'm not sure if we've done away with it, but at least we've downsized that priority board system, the priority board members, and they've been a way for the citizens to have input and to get input from the city of Dayton. I'd like to ask each candidate, how do you now see citizen involvement, input into your decisions with either the downsizing or the removal totally of the priority boards? And we'll start with candidate Lightso.
Okay, let me, I was the chair of the Southeast Priority Board. I was president of a neighborhood association, and what I've seen of the priority boards is we need to morph them into something more productive, more active. When they were set up in the 70s, they were primarily the glue that held neighborhoods together, and they were an information dissemination process where city officials could talk to the boards and then the information would go out into the neighborhoods. Well, we have Twitter, we have text messaging, we have Facebook, we have emails and stuff. Our communication system is so advanced, but our boards are still somewhat antiquated, and but they are still valuable. And what I discovered in a neighborhood situation is that everybody cares about the block they live on, and not everyone cares about the district they live in. And I think the city's taking a targeted approach to go into the neighborhoods, go into the community at the very basic level, to get citizens involved at that level so that they can be groomed to go on to a more district-wide position. But in the meantime, you know, we got to put our resources where we're going to get more citizens involved, because it's not really working at the district level. And I think, you know, and I've talked to priority board chairs and stuff, I think they understand that, and they really do have to morph into something. They can certainly teach people in communities that don't have neighborhood associations how to form neighborhood associations. They're still valuable. We just have to morph them into something more productive.
Thank you. Candidate Wade.
I think the key in the question is about citizen engagement and how we make sure that citizens are being listened to at City Hall, and how we communicate back to citizens in the neighborhoods. When the priority board system started, it was heavily funded completely funded actually by the federal government, and those fundings, like everything else in the city, frankly, has gone away. And we have to make sure that we have a system that is easy to use for our neighbors and our citizens to be able to reach City Hall easily, and makes the most sense in this day and age. And so that's what we're getting ready to look at. I think the planning department at City Hall has some recommendations for City Commission to look at. We've been listening closely, not only to priority board members, but neighborhood leaders across our city. And the other point I think we need to make is that we have right now 2 systems, and it would really be better if we just had one really good system that has easy entrance for folks. When we have to really, as a community, leverage every single asset that we have, and by not making easy entry for people to get involved in their city and involved in their neighborhood, we're losing those opportunities day after day of young people not really getting involved and not understanding the entryway process. And so making that entryway easy, accessible, and open is the key point of these changes.
Candidate
Wagner.
Thank
you, Senator. You know, the solutions that have been proposed to what has been perceived as a priority board problem are not adequate, I don't believe. First of all, that we have come into the modern age, indeed we have, but when a third of our citizens are living in poverty, and many of our citizens are elderly, communicating them by Twitter and Facebook isn't going to happen. It's just not going to happen. The second thing is the proposal that's been put on the table, at least up to this point. The proposal that's been put on the table is that The city will change this from a priority board process to a neighborhood process. There's about 65 neighborhoods in Dayton, and they'll meet with the 65 neighborhood leaders once every 3 months. And they'll have a big meeting, I guess, in a big room, and they'll bring in the 65 neighborhood leaders, and that will be their communication vehicle. That is not going to be effective. It's impossible for, within the span of, I don't know how long these meetings will last, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, it's going to be impossible for 65 people to communicate all their needs and wants and desires and concerns to a city administrator within that period of time. And certainly the city administrator is going to want to do some communicating to them. It is a pass-through of information from the city to the neighborhoods and back. The third thing that I think is problematic is that this is not just a problem of citizen participation, citizens communicating with the city and having the opportunity to communicate with the city. Our elected leaders need to be communicating with the citizens, and that has not been done very effectively. And in order to do that effectively, we have to be, as elected leaders, have to be much more aggressive and much more intentional about how we're going to communicate with citizens. Now, I'm not sure how this priority board process is going to end up. It will probably be taken care of before I have the opportunity to become mayor in January. But it is my proposal, should I become mayor, that I will meet once a week with neighborhood leaders. I'm going to have what's kind of a Rotary Club or an Optimist Club, a service club, but it will be comprised of neighborhood leaders and others, whoever really wants to join, and we will meet once a week for breakfast or for lunch, and we will discuss issues in the neighborhoods, and they can discuss with each other, and we can find solutions together and work together and communicate to one another and work on solving our problems together on a regular basis, on a frequent basis, that says we're genuinely engaged with you and we want you genuinely engaged with us as elected officials. That's what I hope to do.
Good. Thank you, Candidate Wagner. Mr. President.
Candidate Wagner, let me just follow, before I ask my question, let me just follow up with each one of the 3 candidates on this same topic. Now, it kind of sounds like candidate Wagner is really against the proposed priority board system. You really want that to really stay intact. And is that kind of what I'm understanding from you?
I do want the priority boards to stay intact. I think they're a good vehicle. Not only do they help, I think, in the communication process and the dissemination of information, but they also help in terms of our land use boards, our landmarks commission, our zoning commission. They have a part. They take part in those decisions and actively take part. And when we move away from priority boards, we're going to move away from them being able to as easily take part in those decisions. So I don't want to take that away from them. So yes, I am opposed to eliminating the priority boards. The second part of that is that the proposal isn't all bad. No, there's some really good parts of the proposal, and there are some things in there that I would gladly accept. But the once every 3 months meeting with 65 people in a room just doesn't make sense to me as being an effective means of communicating.
Short answer on this one. You mentioned that you would be willing to meet with the neighborhood leaders once a week. How would that be financed? Short answer.
Everybody'd have to pay for breakfast just like any other service club. We'd all show up we'd find a spot that can handle a significant number of people, and everybody'd pay for their own breakfast.
Candidate Whaley, what is your position on the proposed priority board system layout the way it is?
Well, I think we need to change. I mean, I think we've gotten smaller and we've gotten flatter as a city, and so we have to make changes that are effective for communicating with our citizens and our citizens communicating with us. I think that this system we have now, while it was great in the 70s when it was fully funded, it not being funded and the city slowly just keeping to cut isn't the answer. To Judge Wagner's point about when we meet, those things are still not been presented to the City Commission, and those are obviously in discussion. The whole point of the flattening of citizen participation is to make sure we have more people participating and to make sure that the voice is heard at City Hall easily and well. So we're trying to figure that out. I think there'll be things we learn in the first year, and we'll need to make adjustments for sure. I think one of the big problems that the priority boards faced is there's not been a change to the system for 40 years. And the community has changed a lot in 40 years, and for us to make no changes whatsoever besides the cuts it's sustained has required us to make a pretty systematic overhaul. I think that it's also really important that we start working and paying really close attention to how we groom leadership in our community. We have to make sure that our folks, because we have such a high level of poverty, their voices are heard, and to make that easy entrance. And right now, the system we have is not an easy entrance for our citizens to engage, not only with the city of Dayton, but to let their voice be heard to the state and to the nation as well.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Lightsell, what's your position?
Well, like I said, I was the chair of the Southeast Priority Board, and I believe that they have a purpose, but that purpose needs to be morphed. If we can energize and excite people at the very basic neighborhood or block level and get them involved in their community, if it takes 4 people to form a block club, 40 people to form a neighborhood association, and 4 of those people in the neighborhood association would want to go on to a higher district level. With these town hall type meetings, it's basically to give the leadership of the entire city the direction that we plan on moving in and to get input. And in terms of having breakfast with the neighborhood leadership, you're better off just giving them your home phone number or email address, and they'll contact you, because that's what they do with me. They just contact me at home.
Thank you. Okay, next question. What have you specifically done to secure business growth on the west side of Dayton, such as major grocery stores, fine dining, and hotel accommodations? What have you specifically done to secure business growth on the west side of Dayton, such as major grocery stores, fine dining, and hotel accommodations?
You want to start with me?
Candidate Lightsell.
Well, right after getting elected, I did a tour of several of the West Side businesses and went around with Darren Boykin to introduce myself to some of those people and shared ideas with them. The key is government does not create jobs. What we have to do is put in the infrastructure and create the environment that would attract entrepreneurs and business people to set up businesses there. So the city's moving in that direction with the McCall Street property. I mean, we have people looking. So what have I personally done? I'm the guy that's out there saying Dayton's a wonderful place, we're a world-class city, please take a look at us, and it's working because people are looking at Dayton, they're looking at the opportunities here. We became an immigrant-friendly city, which got us national, actually international attention, so that we are now on the world's radar. And I think that's the key, is if we market our city as a world-class city and we believe it, then others will believe it, and it will attract entrepreneurs and business people to look at investment opportunities around the entire city. And the reality is the best development opportunities are on the west side.
So from a specific standpoint, just listening at your answer, there has not really been any growth, but you have attempted to reach out to business leaders on the west side of Dayton.
Yes, I've actually shared ideas with many of them too. Simple ideas, like one guy was asking about how to get his business growing, and I said create an e-store, start selling some of your products on eBay to get money from around the world to come into Dayton, and, and stabilize your business. I mean, there's all kinds of things people can do. I think sometimes they don't look beyond the box. They just think inside it or just outside of it. And I was able to help some people with some brilliant ideas.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Whaley.
With specifically to grocery stores and fine dining, those are what we call rooftop problems. And they're not only specific to West Dayton, but across the entire city we have these challenges. One of the things I think that is really key that the Commission has done is starting to invest in assets and then leverage those assets. An example is the building of the Greater Dayton Rec Center on West 3rd Street, and then really creating housing around that asset. These kind of projects, by getting people stabilized in good housing, having good neighborhoods surrounding them, will bring retail nodes and commercial nodes to our city. It's quite a challenge because those folks that we're talking about, major grocery suppliers, are looking at rooftops and the amount of money people make. And so the poverty challenges we have across the city are a big issue. So again, I think getting people strong jobs that can take care of their families and making sure that they can, work, it will help that avenue a lot, because then there'll be money to be spent as well. So first, I think it's a jobs answer, and then working to make sure that we have assets that are thought about and nodes across the city, and specifically in West Dayton, like we did around the rec center, and Wright Dunbar are two examples of where we're really putting significant investment for that to come. And we haven't seen any good news about that yet, making sure that we have commercial nodes. And again, this isn't just a West Dayton problem. I think this is a citywide problem. We see this not only in West Dayton, but even in downtown Dayton when we talk about residential, a high quality grocery store. I myself am frustrated that I have to go to Harrison Township to get my groceries at Kroger's. So we have a lot of work to do here, but it is a top priority of the commission.
We're going to ask a question just slightly different for candidate Wagner because you're not currently in office. So what would you do to secure business growth, specifically on the west side of Dayton, such as major grocery stores, fine dining, and hotel accommodations?
Yeah, I have proposed it specifically. We bring into City Hall someone who understands business development. It's not a bureaucrat, but somebody who's actually done it, who's actually who's actually worked in the development industry and understands businesses and what they're looking for and what they want from a city and what they want from a community in order to locate there. You may think you have a very good location for a grocery store at some particular spot, but you're really speculating that you think it is. What are grocery stores thinking? What are they looking for? And different grocery stores will be looking for different things. So you need a developer who understands the business and understands the business model that different businesses are looking for. And then you go after and attack or go after those folks who want to do business in a particular community, who have a model that already works in different cities, in different communities like West Dayton. And then you go after them and ask them to come to West Dayton as well. So first we have to identify those kinds of businesses, and then after we identify those kinds of businesses, we've got to do what we can to court them and get them into Dayton. Dayton does not have a good record of either getting businesses in or maintaining them once they're here. We've lost Kroger's on Gettysburg. We lost the Kroger Project on Wayne Avenue, and I'm proud to say I still shop at Kroger's on Wayne Avenue frequently.
Okay, and the reason why we asked that question, because as we have been receiving a lot of phone calls, Dayton Union NAACP has received a lot of phone calls. We received a lot of emails. I'm constantly getting texts right now on various other questions. But one of the leading questions is the west side of Dayton, especially as it relates to the African American community. Because what the African American community see, they see a junkyard that was just put on Gettysburg and James H. McGee. They see a lot of Family Dollars. They see Dollar Generals. They see funeral homes. And I'm talking about on the main corridor, that the veins and the arteries that lead into West Dayton. This is what they see when they go home every day, or when they leave work every day. But then if they take a snapshot and go over to Brown Street, they see a lot of growth and development. They say, well, how can we have that growth and development? And they understand from a business perspective that you have the city of, the University of Dayton that probably plays into that. You have the Miami Valley Hospital that probably plays in that. Well, how about tapping into the Good Samaritan Hospital and have them to reach out? Because let me tell you something specific, because we're going to ask some more specific questions. I'm going to tell you something specifically that the Dayton unit NAACP did that you will hear more about in the days ahead. Some complaints came in regarding Kroger store on Siementhaler. We sat down with the leadership. I'm talking about with the vice president of their company. We sat down with the leadership. We strategized. We came up with a plan of action. Kroger's delivered, and they have in turn did exactly what they said they were going to do in reference to another store design at the one on Siementhaler, and they're going to do some other things. So when they start their other project is when we're going to do a nice article on Kroger's, with Kroger stepping to the plate. But it took leaders to go in to talk with the leadership of Kroger's to make it happen. That's something specific that the Dayton Union NAACP has done. So as we're asking specific questions, we kind of want specific answers, something like that. Okay. Chairman Roberts.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on where you're at, Mr. President, Because it seems like part of your responses are that we have partnerships, Dayton in the Brown Street, the hospital, Miami Valley Hospital on Salem Avenue. But if we use the priority board boundary line, if you go to Inner West, there is no partner there that I think. So I understand there's a truck stop going there on the Nicholas Road property where old Delco Moraine area is at. Could that be, or is that going to be a partner to get something done in the Inner West core? Because currently there is no partnership, there is no economic development going on in what we may consider the Inner West part of the city of Dayton. So I'd like to get each one of your responses on how we develop Inner West Dayton, how do we develop that, and what is our partnership in that regards?
I think the key, I mean, we lost the factories that were there, so we lost the business influence, the business partnership. One of the things that needs to be done around the whole city, and I tried to do this with some people on Salem Avenue right after getting elected, but they have to want to continue it. We need to form business associations. Just get the businesses at little nodes to come together and discuss how they want to work together to transform those nodes. And I'll tell you what, up in Belmont, they formed a business association which had been obsolete for years, and they're really doing some great things, because once they got active, some of the neighbors around them got more active. When the citizens see that the businesses are taking care of where their businesses are, the neighborhoods start taking care of themselves too. So I think that would go a long way into helping, because then other businesses see that there are certain locations in the city that look nice. Now, I think in Inner West, they are trying to create some partnerships with Wright State University and get them more involved in that location so that things can change. Again, a lot of it has to do with marketing. We have to promote all of Dayton as being a safe location, and we've got to get the word out that crime is down, and it is not as horrible as the media sometimes paints it out to be, because there's more good happening in Dayton than bad. And I think if we all start promoting the good, more good things will happen.
Commissioner Wade.
A couple of points. First, we are doing a West Dayton development study to really figure out where we can find commercial nodes and manufacturing nodes in West Dayton. Frankly, across the whole city, I think the biggest potential for growth is in West Dayton. From the work that the commission has done, not only in my term as commissioner, but even before, by doing brownfield remediation, really working on these properties that have gone McCall's and NIPCO, and making sure that we didn't give up on them, and we continued to put millions and millions of dollars into these sites to make them shovel ready again, and we're seeing some good response on that. Secondly, along the Nicholas Road Inner West Priority Board area specifically, First, you have Wright Dunbar, which sits in Inner West and is probably the most amount of money the city has put in any effort over the period of time to try to create a commercial node, to some varying success, right? Like lately, this past month, we went to Sweet Dots, which is a great example of two entrepreneurs trying to make a difference and trying to make a difference on that commercial area. So I think we have some opportunities to create an area of vibrancy along that, and we're not giving up on that either. Along Nicholas Road and 75 Interchange, I think the 75 Interchange is an asset for Inner West as well. And we have, I think, opportunity long-term to partner with UD there, and because that is UD's front door to 75, if you're coming off 75 and into the University of Dayton, in the same sense that Brown Street is. But it is absolutely going to be about these assets. The city does nothing alone anymore. It only does it with partners and people that can bring dollars to the table as well. An example is Good Samaritan. Again, we have put probably $5 million over the period of time around that area, and Good Sam has matched that. And so that matching of assets is incredibly key. So we want to grow our manufacturing base in West Dayton, have strong partners that have come into the community, and then they can create partnerships with the city as well. The issue of having private developers, I'm really proud of the work that the city staff has done. We've been through the Great Recession. It has been tough, not only in West Dayton, but East Dayton, but probably the entire county and region as well. But the idea of having developers do it is really, quite frankly, a John Kasich answer of government doesn't know what they're doing. We really have to make sure that we are good financial stewards of these taxpayer dollars. People are paying tax dollars to us. We need to make sure that we use them wisely.
Thank you. Candidate Wagner.
No doubt we need to use them wisely, but when we don't have anything to show for it, we're obviously not using them at all. We have got to, again, look at the priority board system even, and look at the priority board area of the Inner West. If you destroy that, then you end up with a number of neighborhoods who are going to be in competition with each other for this, or who aren't big enough in and of themselves to energize the kind of work that we need to get a business located into the area. So we need the whole priority board kind of to pull together on this. There are several businesses within the Inner West Priority Board, and some of them are more substantial than others. None of them are GM. But it's being willing to sit down with the businesses that exist and convince them, as UD and the hospitals have been convinced, that it is in their best interest to make sure that their neighborhoods that they're in are developed and are presentable, because that's good for their business. And there are businesses in West Dayton that we could probably work together and do that with. And then once we get the neighborhoods cleaned up, once we get them looking good, once we get them stabilized, then we have a better shot at bringing some people in.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And we don't want to spend a lot of time on this question, but the question did come up. And so we want to make certain that we answer the question. Nationally, the NAACP supports marriage equality. What is your position on this issue? Liza.
I've said I have a very Roman philosophy, which is live and let live. And if that's the mood of the majority, I have no problems with it.
Thank you.
Democracy.
I support marriage equality.
Thank you.
I support our Constitution, which says that everyone should be created or should be treated equally, and I support marriage equality on the basis of that Constitution.
Thank you. According to the 2010 census, African Americans made up 42.9% of Dayton's population. What efforts have you championed that have led, or in candidate Wagner's position, or will lead to increased African American business ownership? Candidate?
Well, I think we're really pushing the entrepreneurship button here in Dayton and trying to encourage more people to become entrepreneurs. We also have our procurement plan where we're trying to get more minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, and small businesses locally to capture some of the money that we spend as a city on services and construction projects. So, and I've also been harping at the schools saying that we need to teach people to become business people. Not, sometimes people won't graduate, and you should be able to identify them, and we need to teach them entrepreneur skills, basic business skills, how to make money, because I think that's what a lot of people care about anymore in our schools. So, I'm out there encouraging. Also, just so people know, my wife and I started, and a friend of ours, Kathy Stubbs out in Germantown, started an outdoor market at 3rd and Webster Street, because I believe that anybody should have the opportunity to make $500 a month, which is the difference between owning a home and renting a home. And with this market, we don't look at resumes, we look at what you make and what you sell. And so if you have a past history that's stopping you from getting a job, maybe this is an opportunity you should try your hand at and see if you can make some money and get on with your life. Because I said, no one looks at your resume when you're selling something or making something. They look at the quality of your work.
Thank you. Candidate Whaley.
In addition to the work the Commission has done with the PEP ordinance and really making sure we meet and have public conversation about it every quarter on procurement for locally small disadvantaged businesses and women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses, which I think is a long-term work. You have to keep at it every quarter and make sure that we're consistent on that. And I think Marcy Wright at Human Relations Council has done a nice job leading that effort. But we also made sure that when MBAC came back, we put it in the Human Relations Council, and we put it under Katie Crosby's direction. And so the city is leading in that effort and sitting at the Opportunity Center, the old Dayton Urban League site. And so we're making sure that we have that effort here, and it's located at the city. And it's not only, what's even great about that is I think the city is showing leadership in that effort, because it's not just only the city of Dayton, but it's a regional effort that's housed in the city, because we know having minority-owned businesses is good for our community, and we need to make sure that we give them the resources to really grow and thrive. And so I think us working hard, and even when there's not necessarily matches, and making sure that those matches happen, we're saying at City Hall that that is a priority for us as a community.
Thank you. Candidate Wagner.
You know, when I was about 10 years old, I started my first paper out and became a businessman. I had to grow that business, and I did. And our family had the biggest paper out in our town. We were pretty aggressive with it. I also went to junior achievement. I was a junior achievement grad, so I understand entrepreneurism. When I was county auditor, then I actually proposed an entrepreneurial center for Dayton to try and actually do the things that the mayor's talking about in terms of trying to educate young folks on what it takes to start a business and what it means to have a business and what a business looks like from the inside out. I would take all those kinds of experiences and skills and try and relate them to different parts of the city, including West Dayton, and bring people along to try and help them start businesses. What I think we need specifically are better toolboxes for our citizens so that they, two things. Number one, have the ability to do a good business plan, which is essential to starting a business and making it successful. Number two, bringing the banks together to develop a pool of money, because capital is probably the biggest problem with starting a business. Is you have to have sufficient capital to get that business through the start and through the first couple of years. So there needs to be some kind of pool of capital that we can bring together and convince banks that that's an important asset that they can provide to our West Dayton community.
Thank you. Just a caveat, so we can kind of close out the part talking about jobs and economic development. There are some staggering numbers that exist. The NAACP is here to champion the cause of civil and human rights for all Americans. And it's in our DNA to look at the disparity that exists in numbers all across the board. So as we look at the unemployment rate in the city of Dayton in the year of 2012 was what? No, not been asked that question. It was 7.6%. Okay? It was 7.6% in the year 2012. That was the annual average for unemployment. In February of this year, it has risen to 7.9%. So it's on the incline from December's average of 2012.
I'd beg to differ on that in a sense because of seasonal hiring. Christmas season. You might want to look at what it was in July.
In July?
In July of last year and then compare it.
The final numbers for Dayton is 7.6% in 2012. The preliminary numbers for February is 7.9%, and the actual numbers for January was 8.7% this year. The actual numbers. But then when we look at the state of Ohio actual numbers was 7.2% unemployment, with that being 6.2% for Caucasians, 14.6% for African Americans, and 8.8% for Hispanics. What will you do as the mayor of this city, because those same numbers are reflective on the city side? What will you do as mayor to close that gap of unemployment amongst all of the citizens throughout the Dayton area?
Honestly, I think the key is to teach people to become self-employed, because if you're self-employed, you're not unemployed. And we need to create entrepreneurs. Back in the 1850s, 1860s, most people in Ohio were farmers, but you weren't just a farmer. You were a stonemason, you were a blacksmith, you were a carpenter, you were a veterinarian, right? And you were an agriculturalist. And you had multiple talents, so that if you decided to leave the family farm and move to the city, you could find employment in many fields. I think one of the problems we have in our education system is we teach people to specialize, and we give up on the people who we don't think are going to graduate. So we don't steer them towards taking care of learning multiple talents. And I think if we focus our education on teaching children multiple talents, and if we focus our attention on teaching anyone to be an entrepreneur, then it'll start to close some of those gaps.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Whaley.
I think this is one of the big issues that really makes a difference on who's the mayor. Because the mayor can truly lead when we're talking about jobs and creation of jobs. When I first announced, one of the first things I did was create and announce my jobs plan. And I worked in it in coordination with the rest of the city commission. If you go to my site at nanwhaley.com, you can click on roadmap and you'll see the jobs plan. And it really talks about leveraging our 8 assets in the city, from water, the health and education campuses, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the Greater Downtown Plan, and manufacturing are some examples. To that end, as city commissioner, I've worked, and Derek, you've served, or one of your folks have served on the NAACP, has been a part of this, of creating a manufacturing task force, making sure that we know that as a community and a region that we have to make things in Dayton if we want Dayton to succeed. And that is what our focus should be, and really what's going to create wealth and create jobs in our community. It's great to have the innovation here coming out of the base, but if we don't make those items here in Dayton, Dayton has an issue with wealth creation. So I think that's an example of where we can truly lead as mayor. That's why I wanted to run. Also, we want to make sure that we're having conversations regularly as mayor with our large job providers, such as Premier, CareSource, which has grown tremendously over the past few years, and making sure that we're advocating on their behalf for their issues. An example this past week, in the past 2 weeks, is the state's failure to act on Medicaid expansion has a huge impact on CareSource as a managed care provider for multiple states, including Ohio. That means direct job creation into the city of Dayton. If we continue to work in partnership, as mayor, that's what I would do, making sure we're having good conversations and having those conversations personally with leaders in the business community.
Thank you. Candidate Wagner.
You know, the problem of inner city unemployment really, certainly entrepreneurism helps, and so does aggressively trying to bring businesses to the community. But the biggest problem is our drug enforcement policy. Because we have a drug war that's concentrated in the inner cities, what we end up with is large numbers of young men and women with felony records. Once they have a felony record, they simply can't get a job. They won't be hired. You can bring all the jobs in you want. They won't be hired because they have a felony in their past. Or at least they won't get a good job, a good paying job. So what's happened is, I can tell you, when I was a judge and I looked at the young men and women who stood before me, I rarely looked at somebody from Oakwood or Centerville. There are just as many drugs out in the suburbs as there are in the inner cities, but we enforce the drug laws only, or almost only, in the inner city. The result has been we've created a permanent underclass of people by giving them felony records and not letting them go. You get a felony record when you're 20 and you're just haven't figured life out yet, and you haven't figured out that's a dumb thing to do. You get that record, and by the time you're 25 and you say, oh, that was stupid, it's too late. And then you're in a job for the rest of your life that's, if you can get a job, you're in a job that's not paying much, and you're in really a permanent situation of poverty. So that by the time you're 50, you're still not getting a good job because you still have a felony record that doesn't go away. We have to advocate for forgiveness. We have to say that felony records must go away after a period of time. We can't give people life sentences because when you have a felony record, not only do you not get a good job, but you can't get a lot of licenses, you can't get public housing, you can't get certain scholarships and get into college. You are permanently held down, pushed down. And because we only enforce drug laws in the inner cities, or almost only in the inner cities, what we end up with is creating this permanent underclass. If we're going to fix this problem, we have to fix the problem of felony offenses.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very hot topic. We can follow up on that some other time today. But several of you have touched on the issue of the mayor's office being, lack of a better term, bully pulpit, voice for the people of the city of Dayton. And several of you have touched on education. And we, as well as other people in the community, are upset with the legislature. And being a former legislator, I'm clear the relationship between reading in education and math. So that's not the question I'm asking. What I'm asking is, as mayor, what is your concern about the new third grade guaranteed law that's forcing third graders to pass it, and what can you do to either address it at the state level or address it at the local level to make sure it's successful? Ken?
Well, I can tell you already, my daughter, who's 10, every 2 weeks we take her into Horace Mann Elementary School, and she reads to preschoolers. So I always felt that if you want kids to read, you got to put peer pressure on them and have kids similar age. Just like with my daughter, her violin teacher is a 15-year-old Stiver student. So I think she would take instruction better from somebody that she can relate to versus somebody much older. Yeah, I've talked to Superintendent Ward. When my daughter was 3, we bought those Your Baby Can Read tapes, and we plugged them in, and within 6 months she started reading. I've found my tapes, and I'm going to give them to Dayton Public Schools. And I've asked Lori Ward to look at these and test them in one classroom and see if they work. They cost $80 for a set, and if you can get preschoolers reading by the time they're in kindergarten, I think that goes a long way towards solving the problem. These are things that they can test immediately. Otherwise, the plans and everything are 10, 15-year plans, and we don't have 10 or 15 years. We talked about the job situation earlier. There are actually 760 highly skilled medical jobs in the city of Dayton in the area that go unfilled because we don't have the people to fill them. And an immediate solution to that is to market that to the rest of the world so that people come here and occupy those positions. But those are, we can plan all we want, but Dayton needs solutions and results, and we need to also take risks to get solutions and results. So personally, I'm doing some mentoring stuff. And I've got my daughter involved. So I'm right in the trenches trying to help with this problem, and while we're working on it, I'm at least doing my little piece, and I would encourage others to do their little piece too to make a difference.
Kenna Whalen?
The third grade reading guarantee is going to be a big issue for the city of Dayton and for our third graders not passing. For some of them that just, you don't pass third grade if you're not at third grade reading level. So what I think is key is making sure that we're in concert and partnership with the superintendent of Dayton Public Schools. And to that end, one example that we're working on this summer is we have a great opportunity to work on reading improvement programs in partnership with Dayton Public Schools, recognizing that our parents can't just drop their child off at 8 and pick them up at 11:30, trying to make it a full day so we can get more students into the reading improvement programs and really work to partner recreation and education together. But regardless of what the state decides, in order for us to be a good economic development option and making sure our economy stays strong in the city of Dayton, we have to as a community say that people graduating from any school in the city of Dayton, when they graduate from high school, they're ready to either go to college, go in the military, or go into a trade. Because we know that those are the kind of jobs that are going to create wealth. And that's the whole point of what we need our education system for, is to be able to take care of your family. So I think from any position, the mayor's bully pulpit is really important to really gritting folks together to work on the issue that our kids are ready when they come out of high school to really start their life. And that's not happening right now. And I think it's a community responsibility, not just Dayton Public Schools, not just the charters, but the community's responsibility to really rally around that as the priority. Learn to Earn, which is the initiative that's countywide in nature, is a strong start, but we as a city and as a community have to come together and say this is the priority for our children's future.
Thank you. Kenneth Wagner.
First of all, I have an education degree. I taught third grade. That was my teaching when I was a teacher before I went to law school. This is a devastating issue for kids. The damage that this will do probably exceeds any kind of help it could possibly be to kids, to keep holding them back if they can't read a third grade. This is a poverty issue. When a child is in poverty and born in poverty in the circumstance that they're born in, when they're the age of 3, they're going to have a vocabulary of about 500 words. A middle-class child's going to have a vocabulary of about 1,500 words. There's already that disparity. We cannot attack this problem by starting in third grade. This problem has to be attacked by starting well before kindergarten. I'm proud to say I'm on the Montgomery County Ohio Futures Commission, where I'm on the planning committee, and we've already targeted through the county to fund preschool for every child who's under 200% of the poverty level. Now that'll be through the county, but we need to pick that up and we need to make sure that happens. I'm also on the board of the Big Brothers Big Sisters, and we have shifted in the past couple of months because of this problem and recognizing this problem coming up in 3rd grade. Our board has shifted a focus of Big Brothers and Big Sisters from being in older kids and older grades down to earlier grades. Because we know that mentoring can affect and impact a child. We know that it makes a difference. The statistical analysis is there that shows it. So we have shifted our focus to try and help this problem specifically, because we know that these 3rd graders, if we can't get them reading, it's going to be have a devastating effect for the rest of their lives if they're held back and held back again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's a question hot off the press. It says, Mr. President, I want to know the answer to this question. If elected, what is the plan regarding all of the vacant and blighted properties within the city? Now, we are getting close to our end time. So if we can hold this down to maybe 1 powerful minute for each candidate, what is your plan regarding all of the vacant and blighted properties within the city?
Okay, there's no silver bullet solution. There are 6,000 blighted or vacant structures. It's a $60 million problem. We have just under $5 million to deal with it this year, and we'll have less than that in future years. That'll take care of about 450 of the properties in terms of demolition. We need to hold banks accountable. We need to inspire the community to step up and utilize the REAP, our real estate acquisition program, to acquire some of these vacant boarded up structures. And we need to do our part in demolition and renovation to stabilize neighborhoods. But also, neighborhoods that have neighborhood associations fare better than those that don't. And if elected, I've basically made a commitment to start going in and creating more neighborhood associations. We need about 25 more. We've got 65 neighborhoods. There's about 25 that don't have neighborhood associations. And those are the really bad neighborhoods in terms of blight. So if they need help, I'm willing to help personally.
Okay. Whaley?
I think the key is, and we've been working on it, to take some of these properties down that are true blights, especially apartment complexes. The one on Gettysburg and 3rd just came down this week, and it completely changes the look of the whole area there. So we have to work hard on that because it's a safety issue as well. If you're paying your taxes and living next to one of these vacancies, it's not fair because you're doing the right thing, and then there's this property here because of what the banks have done or because of the foreclosure crisis, which is what caused this issue to really exasperate itself. This week on the commission calendar, we do have a vacant property registration coming up. I'm pretty confident it has good support across the commission to hold the banks accountable for these efforts through Commissioner Lovelace's leadership in this. We've also passed the countywide land bank to make sure that we have a funding stream, and I disagree with the mayor on saying that we aren't going to have that kind of funding. We received the Move Ohio Forward money from the state because of the advocacy work that we've done as a city, saying we need more dollars to deal with the issue of affecting urban areas, and we've been able to do that. Congressman Turner also has legislation in the federal case to work to get more money from into this pipeline. So we have partners both in state and federal working with us, and we'll need to continue to advocate and work with those partners to make this happen. We have a huge opportunity going forward in revisioning our communities of the future with this effort.
Thank you. Candidate Wagner.
Over half the properties in the city of Dayton are now owned by outsiders, and we have to take a particular focus on them. We have to equip our staff, improve our staff, and equip our staff, housing inspection staff, to go after these properties before they become so blighted that you have to tear them down. We have to change some laws so that we streamline that process and so that we work with the banks as it has been suggested. Florida today just proposed a new set of laws to deal with the mortgages and to streamline that process and get it through. And we have to be doing the same kinds of things.
Thank you. Just another public service announcement. Can you share with us, Chairman Roberts?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to remind the voters that Tuesday, May 7th is primary election day. And so we want to encourage individuals to go vote on Election Day. And then there's early voting going on as well, between 8 and 4 on a weekly basis and from 8 to 12 on Saturday. So remind you again that next Tuesday, May 7th, is primary election day. Make sure you vote on primary election day.
Thank you, sir. This next question, all we're looking for is, I will oppose or I am for. What are your views on regionalism? And how do you feel about Dayton's role in leading this effort on working together to benefit all of us in the Miami Valley area? What is your position on regionalism and Dayton's role of leading this effort? Are you opposed to this system, this new system that they're talking about for regionalism, or are you against?
I'm not opposed to it at all. If it's what the people want, that's what the people get. The MCO Future thing was to have a dialogue with the people to find out what they understood about regionalism, and it's moving us into this direction to form this COG, this coalition of governments, to work together towards ultimately maybe achieving that goal.
Okay, so you're for regionalism.
I'm not opposed to it.
Okay.
I support regionalism, but the devil is in the details on this issue. Regionalism means something different to every person that states it, so I can't really say what you're saying. We'd have to have more discussion about it.
Good. That's a good answer. Okay.
Okay, then I'll
Wagner.
use that answer. Well, you know, 30 years ago, over 30 years ago, 35 years ago, I was on a committee to look at the possibility of regionalism with, at that time, County Commissioner Chuck Horner, eventually became Senator and then Mayor of Kettering. And we looked at it hard, and we decided that we couldn't move forward at that time. I'm excited because right now I think we're in a better position, and I think we can move forward on some parts of that. I'm not sure that the county is politically ready for the whole thing, but I am for it. If we can figure out how to do it, I am for it.
Okay. This is just something I want you to think about, because this is another question, and then we're going to go to our last question. What policies are in place to make it much easier for foreigners to obtain business loans than African Americans and other people of color? Why are their taxes abated and not others? So I'm just prompting you. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's a question that came in. But it's just something to think about as you're doing the rest of your candidates night in between now and November. I'm just telling you that's a question that's out there.
Okay.
Okay. So in closing.
Well, just speaking of November, I want to invite the two who are successful in the May primary to join us on the 4th Monday in September for the NAACP's Candidates Night. So this is a personal invitation on behalf of the President and myself for you to join us on the 4th Monday in September. And so all of you listening, we will have a Candidates Night the 4th Monday in September, when the candidates for mayor and the candidates for city commission will be at the Candidates Night in September.
And let me just chime in, this primary, you don't have to declare a party. It's a runoff. Just so people know, you do not have to declare for a party. You are picking the person you want to be mayor, and the top 2 people go through.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is the last question. This is your true impact statement. We have less than 2 minutes before our show will commence, or close, I should say. Not commence, but to close. So what do you feel is Dayton's biggest challenge? And how do you propose to deal with this issue? How do you propose to address this issue? You have 25 seconds.
Well, biggest challenge are jobs and housing. I think we've discussed them both in this meeting. You can go to gogarygo.com or DaytonMayor.com, and you can read my blog, my website. I'm on Facebook. I mean, IndependentDayton.com is another site where the independent candidates have answered a lot of these questions, and we have it up on YouTube video. So that's the easiest thing I can say. It's out there. Please go and check it out.
Light, so jobs and housing. Candidate Whaley.
Derek, I think it's jobs and neighborhood as well, and the number 1 being jobs. I think that's key, and I'll also plug my website, nanwhaley.com. You can read the 15-page roadmap for Dayton's future.
Okay, jobs and neighborhoods, candidate Whaley. Now, candidate Wagner.
Poverty. Poverty is our #1 issue. 40% of our kids are in poverty, and we can help a lot with that by early childhood education, and by promoting education through the schools. We can also help by eliminating the felony designation, the box as it is, as people know it, that you check off and say, I've got a felony record. We've got to get rid of it.
Thank you all. Thank you very much to all three mayoral candidates.
Thank you.
You all have answered all of our questions. We appreciate you. We wish each one of you well in the upcoming primary on May the 7th. And in addition to that, we're going to say, from an NAACP perspective, never forget this famous quote from yours truly: "Our success is influenced by your actions." Our success is influenced by your actions. Have a good day. See you at the polls.